Strange and unusual headlines stop world-renowned podcast dead in its tracks. More right after this.
Bienvenidos al XJ Talk Show, un podcast acerca de aventuras off-road en Jeep Cherokees y entrevistas con los que manejan y mueven el mundo de las carreras off-road. Ahora, aquí están sus presentadores, Tony y Josh.
Well, this is E-Tony, or I guess I'd have to be E-Josh. So this is Tony.
Yeah, this is E-Josh.
Hey, welcome to episode 95, just 5 more away from that magical 100th episode.
I know that those triple digits are approaching fast, and boy, I'm excited.
Well, anytime you're at triple digits, everything approaches fast, Josh.
Yeah, I guess so.
It has been going by pretty quick. I guess it has to do with the amount of fun we're having, because I know for me it's just zoomed by. Gosh, it seems like there's a whole month of this missing time where I don't even remember doing a show. Oh, we were on vacation. That's right.
Yeah.
That was a strange time, Josh.
Now that was all that weird muscle memory, thinking that I should be doing something, but I wasn't. But yeah, no, I love doing the show.
Well, Josh, yesterday I did something. Actually, Saturday I did something that I didn't want to do. I went over to Amazon Prime, looked at the TV episodes that they had available on Amazon Prime. It's on my Blu-ray DVD. I think you can do it on other devices, but the Blu-ray DVD has this thing on there. And I had already gone through all the episodes of Under the Dome the prior weekend. That was 12 episodes. They're about 42 minutes each. And I sat there and went through the whole thing in one day.
Wow!
So Saturday I saw what I thought was that series that I really wasn't interested in, but now that it was on demand, I thought I could just quickly go through and find out the point to it. But there was some episode.
You're talking about Sex and the City, right?
There was some episode that where the people passed out for about a minute or something, and then they came to, and I forget what it was called, but I thought it was called The Event. So when I saw The Event up on the screen, I went, I'm going to go see what happened and see what the answer was. Kind of cheat, where you can go to the back of the book and just read what happened. Well, I watched the first episode, and Sarah Jessica Parker was not in this one. But anyway, I watched the first episode and said, well, that was interesting. Let me see how this progresses, and I'll watch the second episode. No more than that. I'm not going to get back into this whole thing of watching, the entire series. So I watched the second one, and damn it, I watched the third one. I said, that's enough. I'm going to get off of here and go back and go do something else and whatever. So that was until Sunday when I got up and I watched the remainder. And unfortunately, this was in 2010 when they were making 22, 24 episodes of everything. So I watched 22 episodes, 42 minutes long each, of The Event. It was a one season only series. So, but when I saw that the final episode 22, was called The Arrival, I figured, maybe they're wrapping this thing up. Maybe it's wrapping up for the season. Maybe they got canceled, during the season, and they're going, no. It's lots of loose ends. So it was pretty good. Unfortunately, it starred John Ritter's son, and I'm not a big John Ritter fan.
Well, speaking of arrivals, we've got some stuff in the show for you guys tonight, talking about the arrival of the 2014 Cherokee that we're going to get to in This Week in Jeep. I believe we've got some voicemails to share with you guys. Of course, some Jeep tips, and, we might get to some other stuff if we've got time later on. Speaking of voicemails, guys, please call that 24/7 voicemail line. We've been getting a few of those lately, and it's awesome, so keep rolling them in. That number is 530-675-4102.
Yep. And as you guys know, if you're a new listener to the XJ Talk Show, we deal in entertainment, TV shows, movies. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's actually Jeeps, right? Jeep Cherokees.
No, it certainly is. Oftentimes we get a little bit of that ADD, and we'll head off on a little bit of a rabbit trail, and it's bound to happen on occasion. We've gotten some awesome voicemails and had some fun with some of the responses when we do occasionally go down some of those rabbit trails a little longer than we should.
Well, I mean, I think there's more than one of us out there that thinks about things that are outside of the Jeep world, and I just thought it was kind of sad and depressing that I spent 20 some odd hours watching television yesterday. And I mean, I had it timed well enough that there's about a minute where they bring you up for the last episode. I could go to the bathroom in that time. I could run over to the bathroom, start an episode, go over, run the bathroom, use the bathroom, come back, and then after that show, I go back and wash my hands. So it all worked out.
Well, at least it was a somewhat manly sci-fi show and not something like Sex and the City.
Did you look it up, or are you aware of it?
Well, I would have had to have. I'm aware of the show. I remember seeing the previews. I don't recall watching more than maybe a part of one episode. I just couldn't. It couldn't hook me.
It was very slow.
Yeah, and a show's really got to at least sort of get me hooked. It doesn't have to set the hook, but it has to get me there the first episode. And I'll give it a full episode try. If it doesn't have me by the end, then I give up.
It was an interesting story. They had some good special effects, especially for 2010, in there. And all in all, it was. I think the attraction is that you don't have to wait week to week, and you don't have to wait through the commercials. I think that was what my attraction was, because you can not eat it, but you can devour it so quickly that you can go through it. Kind of like reading a book, I suppose. I guess that's exactly what it is, because I do the same thing if I start reading a novel, and that's one of the main reasons why I don't read a novel, because I'll just go hibernate in a corner, and I got to get to the point, get to the meat, and not want to do anything else but read.
Well, there's one reason why I don't read novels, because I hate reading.
Oh, I hate reading too, and that's one of the reasons why I hate it so much. Is I never can. I don't know why authors have to come up with these squirrely names. Just call people John and Matt and Smith and whatever. I always get confused in the storyline because they come up with these imaginative names. Damn it. Well, anyway, let's roll over to our voicemail, and this is from a new caller, I believe. Hey, this is Tony.
And this is Josh from the XJ Talk Show. We want to thank you for calling our 24/7 voice line.
Yes, we do. Just leave your first name and your question or comment.
There's no guarantee, but we may play your message on the podcast.
Oh, and don't worry about keeping it clean. We'll take care of that.
Now it's your turn to speak at the beep.
Hey guys, calling because I told myself that if a product I bought on Amazon was used on You Bought What, I would call in. So here it goes. My name's Scott. I'm from Northwest Indiana. I drive a 2000 Grand Cherokee, so it's not an XJ, but it gets the job done in my opinion. So that makes it a WJ. It's currently sitting on 33s, 4 inches of lift, 456 gears, lockers front and rear, custom bumpers front and rear, custom sliders, custom long arms in the front. Just got done installing a radiator out of a ZJ Grand Cherokee because the factory one hung down maybe 4 or 5 inches below the frame rail, so it's getting banged up in the rocks quite a bit. I'm currently working on installing 1977.5 Ford high pinion Dana 44 and a Ford 9-inch in it. Once those are under the Jeep, it will have 513 gears, lockers front and rear. I will be moving to 6.5-inch springs and 37-inch tall tires. Now, onto the product that I bought from Amazon. It was the Crown Automotive tie rod end that I believe Josh had listed on last week's show. I bought that from Amazon because I was doing something similar to what Josh was doing, a over-the-knuckle tie rod flip. In order to do that, I needed a right-hand drive Grand Cherokee drag link because the drag link on the WJs are curved to clear the coil bucket. So when you flip it, you need a mirror image part. And I actually went to Amazon for that part because my local dealership told me it was a $100 plus part and that there was none available in the country. Needless to say, 3 days later, I had one from Amazon for under $40. Just wanted to call in and say that there's listeners out there, and actually, I don't know if you guys know this, but I listen to you from a Windows phone. There's not a lot of apps for a Windows phone, and it really surprised me that yours was on there. So keep up the good work and keep the shows coming. I'll be listening I listen to them on Monday, so I listen to them every Monday. I think.
Well, that's just great. That's probably one of my favorite voicemails right there that we've had to date. So glad that you were able to get that drag link from, even though the dealership said there's none available in the States. I love how you got one for less than half the price you were quoted, and through an online retailer nonetheless. So that's a really big thumb in your nose at the dealership, and I love to hear that kind of stuff. I hope you're posting up some pics somewhere of that OTK flip you're doing on the ZJ or the WJ rather. Even though we don't delve a whole lot into Grand Cherokee tech, we don't talk about the Grands a whole lot because both Tony and I are of course XJ owners, and of course we're here for the XJ Talk Show website. We do have Grand Cherokee section, we got Wrangler section as well, and of course some stuff for the MJs as well, but. Nonetheless, it's I've always looked at the Grand Cherokees as the XJ's big brother, and oftentimes they got the same drivetrain, same transfer cases. A lot of the stuff crosses over, and even the fronts are pretty much identical as far as suspension geometry and what you're going to be doing to them as far as upgrades and stuff like that. So glad to hear about your build. It sounds like you really have a laser focus and a great goal in mind, and I hope it gets there because that's going to be one heck of a vehicle when it's all done.
Oh, I think he already is there with one heck of a vehicle, but certainly not letting any moss grow under those mods. He's changing mods. I was really surprised to hear about the radiator hanging down 4 or 5 inches in the danger zone for off-road, but I guess for on-road, it really isn't that important because there's not too many things that you're going to run over that would be hitting that. It's still, with Jeep's off-road heritage, it seems strange that they would put that, drop it down like that.
Yeah, that's actually something I didn't know, by the numbers as far as how low that hung down. So that's definitely something that I will keep in mind. It kind of explains a little bit why most of the Grand Cherokee bumpers that you see are so big. The aftermarket bumpers rather. So all the Expedition style bumpers and most of the aftermarket bumper manufacturers out there, they create such a large bumper, and I would have to say that's probably part of the reason is to sort of cover up some of that radiator that's hanging down low. I would think that as far as approach angles go, you'd want a bumper that's going to sort of double as a skid plate for the radiator because there's, I would imagine, really not a whole lot of room to either relocate the radiator or you're going to have to get real creative and potentially run into some issues like what you're running into with overheating and stuff by throwing a different kind of radiator in there that's shorter.
Yeah, and also too, before we get too far away from it, I just want to thank you for calling in and the great hearing that we have a listener that not only enjoys the show every week, but also too very active in calling in and active on your Jeep. It's you don't have to be active on your Jeep, but it's kind of cool that whenever, I'll speak for myself, whenever we go through either getting guests on that talk about technical details on Jeeps or talking about it ourselves, that you guys take it to heart and actually use that information on your Jeep. And, really appreciate you going to Amazon.com and clicking on our banner on XJ Talk or xjtalkshow.com before you go over there so we can get a little few percents or a little few cents or percentages of the sale. Now, I will mention from the top of your call, Scott, I think there might be a little confusion. We haven't actually started the Amazon giveaway thing yet, but for the call in, what we were anticipating is that when Josh either accidentally or more likely on purpose, now I think he's going to be nervous at first, so he may be saying "boughten" just because he's trying not to. But whenever he says "boughten," when we're in the Amazon "You Bought What" segment, we're going to get you to call in to our live call-in number, and then whoever calls in first and says, "Hey, I'm calling in." Maybe we'll have a phrase that pays, Josh.
We'll have to come up with something. Obviously, there's going to be some live interaction. You're going to have to listen to the live show to participate, to have a jump as far as it were on everybody else. And there may be some tips or something like that, or some some inside baseball, so to speak, that we post up on the website somewhere. I'm not going to really, delve into that too deep, but nonetheless, we're going to get you guys to listen to the live show and get a chance to actually, win something, I guess, when it comes down to it. And it's all going to stem around my vocabulary, I guess, and my prophetic use of the word "botan."
Yeah, it's really funny. Of course, you've gotten better at it. You haven't really said that, so we're going to have to be training you to say that on the cheap items on Amazon.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, the idea we kind of had was, and I can't remember if we talked about this on air or not, Josh, but I know we've discussed it. But the idea we had was, while going through the Amazon.com you bought what segment, if Josh, when he's going through one of the items, accidentally says "botan," then whoever the first caller is on our live call-in line, they'll be able to get a gift certificate at Amazon.com for the amount of that item. That way, you can get that item, or you can buy whatever you want. I think originally we were talking about actually buying that item and then shipping it to them. And then I got to thinking about warranty and all the rest of that stuff and how much easier it would be. And especially since Amazon has a very easy way of giving gift certificates, they can just be emailed so that you could do something instantly. You don't even have to, I think I've made the comment before, forgot your wife's anniversary? forgot your girlfriend's 6.5 week anniversary, then you can just quickly go on Amazon.com and email her a gift certificate. Now, you may be in a different type of doghouse after doing that, but at least it's something.
Yeah, no doubt. We're going to definitely make sure to get you guys' information off the air, as it were. So there'll be a live call-in portion, and then it's just one of those things where we'll get you to hang on off the air, and we'll get your information somehow or another. And, of course, the winning prize will get shipped out, post-haste to whoever, of course, is that first caller when the magic word, I guess you could call it, gets announced.
Yep. So what else is going on, Josh?
Man, not a whole heck of a lot of nothing. I had to dog sit a 150-pound Doberman this weekend while my girl and her best friend went up to Seattle to play a little birthday celebration thing, and I was pretty much stuck at the house watching this behemoth of an animal that I swear was on crack or something, because that dog was rambunctious, to say the least.
Yeah, I hate it whenever they're high strung like that. I mean, I don't mind a little bit of it, but when it goes on for longer than the amount of time that I'm enjoying playing with them, then it does get old. So I guess this is punishment for your off-road trips where you go off on your own.
Yeah, here I was thinking, I'm going to have, half the weekend to myself. I'll be able to, spend, some good quality time getting some stuff done on the Jeep. But no. I had to watch this dog.
Well, on the Jeep tips towards the end of the show, I'll be talking about the fun information that I got. You know how I've told you that my wife has said over a couple of occasions, the Jeep's making a noise, and how you just sync. Well, I think it was yesterday or Friday. My daughter came up to me after driving home in the rain, I believe, and she said, "Did Cassie tell you about what the Jeep is doing?"
Oh, no, that's even worse.
So we'll go over that in Jeep Tips. I guess there wasn't anything else in Chit Chat. I was looking at This Week in Jeep thinking that was all Chit Chat.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, let's roll into This Week in Jeep.
xjtalk.com. It's where you go when you're not off-road.
The XJ Talk Show is now available on iTunes. Subscribe and leave a review. Also, be sure to give us a 5-star rating.
This is Dan from the 4x4 Podcast, and you're listening to the XJ Talk Show.
This Week in Jeep.
Well, guys, as it would have it, we're going to talk a little bit about the Cherokee we all love to hate, the 2014 Cherokee. Now, this was just released yesterday, a quote from the director of Jeep product marketing. His name's Jim Morrison. No relation to the singer, I guarantee you. And he's referring to the 2014 Cherokee. He says, To be true to its roots, we needed to make sure it is the best four-wheel drive in its class by far. I think we're being fair and loyal to the customers, but more importantly, we're being fair to the nameplate. Because if we'd done nothing with that, the nameplate would just die over time. Now, first off, Mr. Jim Morrison, how dare you? Secondly, there's no way that the Cherokee name would just die over time. There is such a huge following, and this podcast, the website, and all of the websites out there that are dedicated to nothing but the Cherokee, I think is just a small drop in the bucket compared to the large following worldwide that the Cherokee, the XJ, has. And he goes on to say that, let's see, I'm sorry, I lost my place here in my notes, that Jeep has actually hit the mark, apparently. Currently, the 2014 Jeep Cherokee is classified as a mid-sized sports vehicle, and it does. By every measure, at least by the numbers, particularly the off-road Trailhawk version, have best-in-class capabilities unlike any other vehicle on the market. Now, we're talking about its off-road abilities. So, at least as far as that is concerned, the Cherokee is living up to sort of its namesake. In that, back in the day, the XJ was best-in-class off-road as well. Now, when it was first introduced in 1974, the Cherokee was based on the Jeep Wagoneer. But when the XJ was introduced, it too had its own controversies. The Cherokee went through a major redesign in 1984. Remember, the 84 XJ platform was a lot different than its Wagoneer predecessor. Now, it was smaller, still boxy, but it was nonetheless a quite a big change from its Wagoneer roots. Now, Morrison said that the new generation of Cherokee is facing similar criticism, as the XJ did nearly 30 years ago. He quote, "Yes, it's not square. We can't change that. But like we changed the look of it in the 80s, we changed the look of it again." Chrysler sold more than 2.5 million Cherokee models worldwide between 1974 and 2001, including top sales of more than 200,000 units in 1999. Hence why the 99 Cherokee is the best Cherokee. But I'm not going to go down that road. Nonetheless, guys, 200,000 is going to be an interesting number, and I'm going to be anxious to see if this thing is going to beat it. Now, AutoGuide.com got their hands on one of these. Now, AutoGuide is by far probably one of the most respected automobile, I'm going to say, writing platforms in the planet. And they gave the 2014 Cherokee an official review. Basically, what it boils down to, all fluff and no buff, with maybe the exception of the four-wheel drive, actually. And it's certainly not worth the $40,000 price tag it would cost to get a fully loaded Cherokee, mind you. Now, they're not very fun to drive, apparently. There's a little bit of body roll. The interior is clunky and cumbersome. The knobs and stuff, they just don't feel very ergonomic and stuff. They complained a lot about the interior. One thing that they kind of laughed at more than anything was that the auto parallel park system has, once engaged, has a little display of a 2014 Cherokee from up above pulling into a parking spot in between two classic Willys Jeeps. Now, this is a little animation that goes on in the dash on the screen, behind the steering wheel. Very interesting nonetheless. But both engines, both the 184 horsepower, 171 foot-pounds of torque, 2.4-liter four-cylinder, and the 271 horsepower, 239 foot-pounds of torque, 3.2-liter V6, are extremely underpowered and noisy to boot. These things do not get out of their own way. The four-cylinder, more so than the six-cylinder, is extremely loud. The drone on highway speeds is almost unbearable. And through all of their test driving, they never once got it into ninth gear. Apparently, that 9-speed transmission is still having some faults, which was already recalled before the thing even was released. So, nonetheless, $40,000 for a fully loaded, best-in-its-class four-wheel drive Cherokee is, well, certainly not worth the price tag. You can get a brand spanking new Audi for a fraction of that price tag. So, it looks like the Cherokee, the one that we all love to hate, the 2014 Cherokee, has got some big shoes to fill, and it's doing so at least somewhat, pound for pound in its class on the four-wheel drive market. But anything else on road, this thing certainly isn't worth the price tag.
Well, of course, I've mentioned in the past the problem I have with it is lack of a front axle, and I can't imagine. I don't understand why, if you're going to build an off-road rig, why you wouldn't go with a straight axle. It is, I mean, I was watching a thing the other day that the straight front axle, well, not straight axle, but the front axle actually won King of the Hammers this year, and it was basically a run between the front axle and the IFS, and that was a mixture of flat-out desert racing, which you would expect the IFS to exceed in, and rock crawling, which you would expect the straight axle to exceed in. But apparently that front axle rig was able to do both.
Yeah, and I know that Team Naxja had their Cherokee out in the King of Hammers, which placed quite high. In fact, I think, what was it, second place overall? I can't remember.
In the group, I forget the group that they were racing in, but they came in second. The
class that they were in, they were in a different class than the full tube frame buggies, of course. But yeah, in their class, they were racing and a short arm kit nonetheless. So and I couldn't remember if in their class they were battling any independent front suspension rigs, but nonetheless, impressive to say the least that a solid axle vehicle is still competing and winning obviously with short arms and a straight axle.
Well, you have to keep in mind too that and correct me, anybody out there, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but my impression is that IFS is inherently not as strong as a front axle.
No, it's not. It's not, and it's certainly you cannot get the level of articulation that you can out of a solid axle vehicle. With non-independent front suspension, it's not in the numbers.
So I'll go right back to it. If you're going to build a competitive off-road vehicle, why go with IFS? Go with, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but the mechanics are a lot simpler as well. So you have stronger parts. You have they're less likely to break, therefore, and if they do break, they're probably going to be cheaper and easier to fix than an IFS.
I think maybe some of that, Tony, came down to the weight, the overall weight. This thing is by far probably one of the heaviest mid-sized SUVs that is currently on the market. There are a few that outweigh it nonetheless, but it is still one of the heavier mid-sized SUVs on the market. And its power-to-weight ratio is obviously very apparent in the numbers, regardless of what engine platform and drivetrain that this thing has. It's slow. It's not very nimble. Now you slap a solid axle in the front of it, and I don't even think they would have had room for the engine if they were to do that. Secondly, there'd be the weight, and you're talking about adding probably several hundred pounds over an IFS system with a solid axle. And I don't think the Cherokee could really support it, at least not with the drivetrain that it has.
Well, then that's the other angle with it, isn't it? I mean, why don't we be less concerned with the how nice the interior is, and let's focus on the things like the engine, the power plant, the drivetrain, how long it's going to last, and how it's going to get you from point A to point B. Obviously, not everybody goes off-road all the time, and they're trying to hit a market that is off-road-ish. That the bragging rights, so to speak, that I've got this off-road vehicle, but even at that, I just can't see why, especially for $40,000. Now, I haven't priced a Wrangler, but for $40,000, I'll just go look at a four-door Wrangler. Thank you very much.
Now, base price is around, I think, 23, 22,000, something along those lines. That's including destination. Now, a top of the line limited runs around 30,990. But you start adding in a few of the options that are available for it, and it goes well over $40,000. Now, the one that that Auto Guide drove was a 4-cylinder. It was a 4x4 limited, and its sticker price with all the options that it had was around $35,300. Nonetheless, you start adding options, you get all the trimmings, and with a Trailhawk version in a limited trim, plus a few of the other options, you're looking at $40,000 plus. It's just, I'm sure you can get a Trailhawk trimmed down for less than that. But to get, we're looking at the competition here. What is this thing really going against? And, what an Acura MDX, you're certainly not going to take that off road. You maybe throw a Lexus in there or something like that. I don't know. Some of the Toyotas ones, it's just not going to happen. Volkswagen or a Porsche. Come on. These, as far look, I'm not flipping sides here, people. I'm not all of a sudden touting the 2014 Cherokee as the next best thing on the planet, but nonetheless, its claims right now are certainly being justified. It can back up what it's claiming. Is it a good thing? I'm going to say no. It's certainly not doing the name badge justice as this director of marketing, whoever, of product marketing.
Jim Morrison. That's an easy name to remember.
Yeah, really. Now this guy, oh man, I think he's got his blinders on.
He's trying. He does the same thing politicians do. He's putting on a happy face, and if you repeat it enough times, somebody's going to believe it.
Yeah, you start believing it your own self. Yeah.
Yeah. So, to be fair, maybe he does believe it, but I don't think that anybody that knows any history of the Jeep Cherokee can honestly say that this does any justice to the Jeep Cherokee. And I'll make it. I know that there's some people out there that disagree with me and Josh about the 2014 Jeep Cherokee, but I will. To cover myself in that, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you liking the 2014 Jeep Cherokee. I think it would be perfectly fine if it just didn't have the Cherokee name. Call it something else.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I mean, Jeep has every right to build whatever they want to build, and personally, I think they need to be careful about what they put out there, because the Jeep name really means something. And then if you start doing things like the Compass, the Patriot, again, Chrysler, Mopar, whoever, sell those things. Just don't sell them as Jeeps, because don't put a 7-slot grill on the front of it and call it a Jeep. It's not a Jeep.
Yeah, I know. You throw the 7-slat grill on it, and all of a sudden anything can become a Jeep. At least nowadays, it seems like. And this is a prime example of it. And for us diehard, old school Jeep fanatics, it's not cutting the mustard.
Hey, I think even Hummer put the 7 slots, or whatever you want to call it, on the front of their Jeeps. I think Jeep got a little upset about that at one point.
I would hope so.
I think they were still able to. I don't think it was copyrighted or anything like that. I mean, 7 slots. It's you have a slot in the middle that way.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Hey, this is Nikki G, and listening to the podcast, and thinking about how Tony said last week that his Jeep, he built it for hurricane evacuation or zombie apocalypse, whichever happens first, which we all know the zombie apocalypse is going to happen first. And I've got a great escape plan for when the zombies attack. And everybody knows wild animals seem to gather where there's abundant food source. And since zombies like to eat brains, I'm just going to head down to the airport. I think that would be the safest place to be. I'm pretty sure I'll be the only one down there with a brain. Except don't go upstairs to management office, because they're already overrun with zombies. And I was listening last night when you were talking about driving your wife's TJ, and they had all these mechanical issues, and you didn't realize it because you don't drive the vehicle enough. I just went through that with my daughter's 01 Beetle, which is proof positive that Satan is working with Hitler in designing automobiles. That's how else would you explain a car that's designed in Germany, made in Mexico, and sold in the United States? This thing is, it's a nightmare to work on. But she came to me and said she was having air conditioning problems, and I looked at it and said, yeah, I'm not even going to attempt it. So I've got a friend of mine who works at a non-Volkswagen dealership that he took it into work with him, and he worked on it and gave me a good deal. He worked on his lunch break. And so my daughter dropped it off at his house. He drove it into work. We fixed it. And then he called me up a couple of days later and said his car's back. Picked it up. So I had my wife drive me down there. I picked it up. And I drove about half a mile. I had to pull over. This car was making such a loud clunking noise in the front end. It sounded like a broken shock if there was anything that resembled a shock on the car. But so I pulled over, and I noticed it smelled like burnt oil and smoke pouring out of the hood. So I investigated, and the sway bar bushings that take early retirement and left the vehicle. There was not a remnant of any type of bushing on the driver's side. I opened the hood, and there's a big hole in the block where PCV valve used to be. So the crankcase was just venting out smoke and oil. And so control arm bushing was surprisingly.
Wow, that's quite an adventure.
Kudos to you guys for having a polite machine that says goodbye before it cuts you off. I like that. Unlike my brothers who just hangs up on you. Yes, Pete, I'm talking about you, and your call is coming next. So anyhow, where was I? Oh, control arm bushing. Surprisingly easy to fix. The PCV valve was a little difficult to get to, being that it's placed only where a 12-year-old Japanese kid could reach.
Of course.
But I got it fixed. And then had a conversation with my daughter. I said, did you know your car was smoking and making this loud noise? She goes, oh, yeah, it's been doing that for a while. I said, why didn't you come to me sooner? Well, why did it take until the air conditioner broke for her to say I had a maintenance issue? So, moral of the story is routinely drive your children's and your spouse's vehicle, a vehicle that you have that you don't drive often enough, to check it out. This squirrel would have drove it with 3 wheels and a muffler hanging just as long as the lipstick mirror was intact and the air conditioning worked properly. And I tell you, kids nowadays, they don't know how easy they have it. Yeah, that's all I got this week. Fire so long. I'm in a talkative mood, I guess. All right, guys, I'll chat you later. You have a good one. Bye.
Hey, this is Ben at Bushwhacker, reminding you to get all your best Jeep news from the XJ Talk Show. And don't forget to follow Bushwhacker on Facebook and Twitter.
xjtalk.com. It's where you go when you're not off-road.
Well, Nikki G, when you said a hole in the side of the block, I was starting to get really, really nervous for you, especially after that clunking noise you were hearing coming from the front end.
Yeah, that doesn't sound any good at all. I was thinking, okay, a rock in the hubcap or something simple like that. No, a hole in the side of the engine. That's if you're going to do it, I guess that's the way to do it. Really go out with a bang.
Yeah, I was going to drive the TJ to work this past Friday, but we were having flood alerts and things. And even though the TJ is lifted up high, it doesn't have all the recovery gear that the XJ has. It does have a winch now. It does have tow points in the front and rear. I got one of those Smitty built 2-inch receiver D-ring adapters. So I'm actually covered front and rear on the TJ now. So if for some strange reason my wife was to get stuck off road, I'll have places to hook on front and rear on the TJ and be able to pull her out in pretty short order. Unfortunately, I won't be doing the deal if I was helping somebody else out, which would be they have to stand out in the rain and go through the mud and the muck to hook up. It'll be me. So I guess I really should get some rubber boots. I'll have to check Amazon and see about getting some rubber boots to go in the back of my rig.
I was going to say, just keep a set of waders tucked away somewhere. You'll be good to go.
Yeah. Again, thanks for that call, Nikki G. Glad things worked out, but very interesting story, and I think everybody can relate to those situations when you're in a multi-vehicle family. You would like to know about these things. You would like to never hear that there's ever a problem, but you'd rather hear about it sooner than later.
Well, just like my little story I shared with you guys last week about Steve 4.3 LXJ trying to meet me down at the Rubicon, and his Jeep kind of acting up on him, and he'd had a similar issue, I guess, prior. And I mean, obviously this is his own Jeep, and he's the one who drives it. He's the one that ends up, figuring out that these little issues are popping up. But he had a coil go out on him apparently, and he replaced it, and the problem went away. Well, apparently the problem resurfaced itself on his way down. Well, after he was supposed to be meeting me down by the Rubicon, and I mean, luckily, he's in a multi-vehicle family, and he was able to get a tow rig and a trailer down from the homestead and get his Jeep back home and get it all fixed up and stuff. But nonetheless, if it wasn't for that and of course his own experience, this could have happened, potentially out on the trail, which would have been no good. He would have been dead in the water, or, happened on the side of the freeway. At least, he was in a parking lot or something and got this taken care of.
Got a tip? We do. It's time for Jeep Tips.
Well, Josh, I have two sad stories. Do you have anything that you want to throw into Jeep Tips tonight, or should I just go ahead?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and sort of chime in on this one with you because, I've definitely got some stuff that I can add to this as far as, what to look and procedures and tips and tricks and stuff like that. So why don't you take the reins and I'll just sort of jump in when it's appropriate.
Okay. I didn't want to leave you out. I have a tendency to go on and on, especially when it's an emotional issue, and I didn't want to take away from anything that you might have. So as I was mentioning to Josh pre-show, my youngest daughter came to me Friday evening, I believe. It might have been Saturday, but I think it was Friday evening. And she says, "Hi, Dad." She had just gotten home from work. And she says, "Hi, Dad. Did Cassie tell you what the Jeep was doing?" Now, they now they drive the 1999 Jeep Cherokee. So it's got 150,000 miles on it, and as far as I can tell, it's all stock, with the exception of the things that I've been changing as necessary. Certainly, the 3-inch rough country lift is not stock. So, shocks have been looked at. The front end was recently the tires and wheels were recently balanced within 2 months ago, I believe, because my daughter was having some shimmying on I-10 whenever she was going to work at the mall, and so we went. I took her with me and actually showed her what is involved and what you say to the folks and stuff, so she would know how to do that. And it really didn't go away. So I was going to look at other things, and I thought, well, if I'm going to have to, it was kind of a shimmying and a bouncing thing. So whenever we had the wheels rotated and balanced, that bouncing thing really didn't go away, which was okay because it was kind of an opening to go ahead and justify getting the 3-inch lift.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of spending, maybe $60, $70, maybe even $100 something for shocks, I could just get a lift that came with shocks, and it was the new N 2.0 shocks from Rough Country, and at least until recently I've heard are good shocks. So I installed that lift on it. Well, the thing they were, I asked Mandy, my youngest, after she said, did Cassie tell you what the Jeep was doing? I said, well, no, what is it doing? And she says, well, if I'm driving 55 miles an hour on I-10 and I'm accelerating, get up around 60, it kind of wiggles a little bit at 55, and at 60, it's so bad that you have to slow down. So,
oh boy.
Yeah. So I said, what do you mean? Is it, how does it vibrate? How does it move? She says, like side to side. I said, what does a steering wheel do? And she kind of described it, and I said, well, does it go back and forth like this? And she says, yeah. So I'm not absolutely sure. Anyway, I suspected death wobble. Front end, 150,000 miles, somewhat understandable. So anyway, I got out there this evening with my older daughter because my youngest is at work, and got her to turn the steering wheel back and forth and look for any loose parts.
And that is really the best method to determining or to start the troubleshooting process of something going on in the front end. I mean, it's hard to ask for help, and especially from somebody who doesn't really know much about mechanics or a Jeep that you've built per se. But having somebody just sit in the passenger or in the driver's seat and just work the steering wheel back and forth slowly, but getting a good half a steering wheel rotation.
Yeah.
Just a wiggle probably isn't really going to cut it. You need to really work that steering wheel back and forth. So they're going to need to, have a little bit of shoulder strength in there because, oftentimes it's best to do it without the power steering engaged. And what that does is it really makes the steering system work. And it's going to really have to make the person sitting in the driver's seat work as well. But doing that, getting that steering wheel to work back and forth like that, a good half a turn in each direction, if not more so, you really put that all that steering linkage through its cycles. And you get to see sort of how it's working and what it's doing when you're doing what with the steering wheel. And it's not something that you really pay much attention to as you're going down the road, obviously, because you're behind the wheel.
Well, let me ask you a question about the power steering thing.
Yeah.
Now, Death Wobble is going to be created by something that is Pitman arm on down, so to speak. So I don't understand what the difference between having it, because frankly, if she didn't have the engine running, she wasn't going to be able to turn the steering wheel because it's just too difficult sitting still. And in my mind, if the power steering unit is the thing that's being hydraulically assisted and it is moving the Pitman arm all the way through drag link, tie rod, all those ends, that's all mechanical, and it doesn't have anything to do with how much pressure is being applied by the individual or hydraulic steering. It doesn't care. In fact, the hydraulic steering is probably going to be more pressure than more instant and constant pressure than what you would see with the engine not running or the power steering unit disconnected.
I will agree with you on that, in that the problem most likely with Death Wobble is going to be from the drag link down, or potentially the Pitman arm on down. However, when you're talking about front end issues in general, as far as steering and stuff goes, something in the actual in the steering linkage or in the steering wheel linkage itself can potentially pose a problem.
Yeah, certainly. If it's the power, if it is the driver, well, God, I've lost what it is. The steering box back, certainly that makes sense. But in a Death Wobble issue, I don't think you're going to have a problem with the I've lost it again. The steering box or the linkage. I mean, I guess it could be, but I don't think so. I think all the harmonic vibration sets up in everything Pitman arm down.
Now, the steering box can come into play because if your steering box is a little bit loose on the frame, you're definitely gonna have some issues. It could be Death Wobble. It could just be really loud clunk turning in one direction or another. I imagine it's going to cause a whole bunch of problems. But of course, if you've got that power assist, there's not going to be quite as much force applied back to the steering box as it were if you were really just cranking it manually.
Right. It's not a fly-by-wire, but it's something close since you have that hydraulic assist.
Right.
Now, so anyway, it was a critical point for what I was about to say. Since I was going to say, I made sure that first off, she started the Jeep, and then I said set the brake, and then I had her, because girls, especially short ones that are 5'3" and maybe 110 pounds, if that, aren't that strong. So I said, put it in drive as I was standing to the side of the Jeep, because keep in mind, guys, you're going to be in front of the Jeep. It's going to be running, and somebody's going to be sitting at the steering wheel. And love my children, and beyond being hurt and run over, I don't want them to have to live with that they injured their dad because the dad was just too stupid to take precautions. And in fact, I thought about going and getting the wheel chocks, but I was too lazy, so I didn't. Anyway, so I had her put it in drive and make sure her foot was off the brake, and it didn't go anywhere. So I felt confident with her having it in park and her knowing to leave it in park and just turning the steering wheel back and forth that I should be fine. So anyway, I got under there, and I noticed pretty quick that I didn't take a flashlight with me. So I noticed pretty quick that the drag link tie rod end that ties in to the Pitman arm was moving. Now, guys, it's a very slight movement. It doesn't have to be, but just a slight movement can make a large difference.
Now,
So,
describe for them the kind of movement you see, because I mean these are joints. They're supposed to sort of rotate and move a little bit.
they're a lot like a shoulder joint because you have this little socket that goes into like your shoulder, and that little round ball kind of moves around inside there. Now, what I was seeing actually made me think for a very split second until I thought about how the tie rod end, the ball joint thing itself is made up. That it was just loose, that the castle nut was loose, and of course it can't be that because there's a Carter key that's holding that castle nut in place, and unless that tie rod end was installed incorrectly, it would not be moving. So it literally looked like it was moving up and down. Now, to me, that's a little more critical situation than one that is kind of moving side to side. If it's moving up and down, then that means that it had worn that area inside there, and there's a good chance that it could pop out. So you don't want to be driving anything that has a tie rod end or a ball joint that pops out, especially since it is what connects the steering to the pitman arm, and the pitman arm goes to the steering box. So if that comes apart, well, the steering gets a lot easier because it's no longer connected to anything.
Yeah. All of a sudden, wow, my steering is buttery smooth as you drift across 4 lanes of traffic. And
so thankfully, centrifugal force would probably keep you going. It wouldn't just cut the wheels to the side and you'd flip. But nonetheless, I forget, there's some movie where a comedic movie where the guy goes, well, I'm just a passenger now, and he puts his arms up because there's no sense in steering.
Yeah. So the amount of movement that you were seeing, can you describe it in degrees or in fractions of an inch?
It may have been an eighth of an inch, but it could have been as little as a 16th. I actually, I wasn't quite sure what I was seeing. I mean, I could definitely tell there was a movement, but I wasn't sure if I was seeing a significant. Well, you shouldn't see any. I wanted to see it clearer, so I told my daughter I'd be right back. Came upstairs, got my flashlight, and went back out there.
Okay.
So yeah, and then once I did that, I was able to get a little bit more light on all of the tie rod ends or ball joints. And what are those tie rod ends? They're also called ball joints, aren't they? Because I'm talking about the ones that are on the tie rod, the one that is on the drag link.
Those are all tie rod ends.
Even though it's not on a tie rod.
You could, well, yes, they could be considered rod ends at that point, but they all essentially are tie rod ends, even though they're not at the end of the tie rod.
Yeah, I don't want to confuse you guys by saying it incorrectly. And there's also one built on to the track bar. So on the stock track bar, there's one that attaches to the unibody, and then one. Actually, it's not a TRE, a tie rod end. It's just kind of a bushing that goes on through the other side that attaches to the axle.
That's right.
So I noticed a similar movement on the one that's on the track bar. So, they're both right there kind of in line, and they're both moving up and down. So I told them the Jeep is down until I replace that stuff because I don't want anything popping out.
Are you now with the stock? The stock setup, the drag link ends are not replaceable.
Correct.
In fact, pretty much there's one end on the tie rod and one end on the drag link that are both not replaceable.
Oh, I'm sorry. I take that back. The one at the on the unibody side is replaceable. The one that goes into the
onto the axle side,
the steering knuckle is not. That's like a built-in piece.
Right. And that was my biggest complaint about both the ZJ and the XJ steering geometry setup is that the arms essentially are not serviceable; they have to be replaced. So, question for you, Tony: are you gonna do any upgrades? Are you gonna upgrade to maybe the Grand Cherokee, the ZJ setup, or are you just going to?
I've never had any interest in doing the upgrade to the ZJ. I don't think that's to me that's a kind of a waste of time. If you're going to upgrade, then go get something that's bigger and better.
I would agree. Only because I've done the upgrade myself, and I've also put it through its paces and seen its weaknesses as well firsthand. And so, just a quick tip, folks: if you're in the market for some steering upgrade, and you do any amount of, I'm going to say, mild to moderate wheeling, and this involves more than country roads, more than gravel roads, more than your occasional logging trail. I'm talking about some mild rock crawling. I'm talking about actually seeing some trails, actually getting into some off camber, deep rutted type of off-road trails. If your vehicle sees any degree of that, then and you're looking for a steering setup upgrade, the ZJ system is fine and dandy, but again, it will eventually wear out, and it is not serviceable. It has to be replaced. So why not go, save your pennies for a little bit longer if you can. And obviously, Tony, in your position, when you're at this point of where things have worn out and they must be replaced, you can't really wait that much longer, especially when it's a daily driven vehicle. But if you can put it off, folks, I would say save your money for an actual bona fide steering upgrade system. It is worth it in the long run.
Yep, and what I'm going to do here, this is it does have a 3-inch lift, but it is not something that will be taken off-road to any degree. So all I'll be doing is, frankly, from the 30 minutes I looked at it today, I think what I'm going to be going with is the rough country adjustable track bar, because it's $130. I could go $200 for something like JKS, or $269 for Ironman Andes, but this isn't going to go off-road. I thought briefly about going the route of taking the heavy-duty track bar, the heavy-duty rough country track bar off of mine, but I really didn't want to go through all the trouble of removing it off mine, installing another one on mine, and yada, 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 yada. Because frankly, I would, if I was going to replace mine, I'd go to Ironman 4x4, fab4x4.com and get his really heavy duty track bar. That thing's amazing. So I think I'm just going to give them a call, excuse me, tomorrow. And because I've read numerous times that you call them, they'll give you a discount. You ask for a discount, they'll give you a discount, and see if I can get them to ship it out pretty quick. Now, I do have to double check this, but I do believe I read that a 1997, I believe, through 2006 TJ track bar is the same as what was used on our XJs. So if that's the case, then I have a TJ track bar that I can put on the 99 until I get a track bar to go on it. Now, it had 100,000 miles on it when I changed it, but nonetheless, 100,000 miles is probably has a little bit more life in it than what the one with 150,000. Certainly, after looking at it, you can certainly tell it doesn't have much life in it.
Now, most of the TJs, well, I think all of the TJs for that matter, came with a Dana 30 front end, and it is a 4-link, coil suspension, front suspension system. For all intents and purposes, it is identical to the Cherokee. I would not be surprised if it had the same track bar setup. However, I don't believe that the frame rail width of a TJ is the same as the where the unibody rails sit on an XJ. I could be mistaken, but as far as I know, the track bar, even though it's still in the inverted Y steering setup on both vehicles, the geometry is slightly different just because of the way that and the position that it mounts on the frame. Now, I could be wrong. In that case, I'll definitely apologize for that. But I'm very curious about this, because if that's true, that's going to be very interesting news, and certainly open up a great degree of possibilities for people swapping out some parts there in the future.
Yeah, I just read it someplace while I was looking up parts. That's why I say I saw it once, but I do have to do more confirmation on it. I probably will not want to do things twice, but the Jeep's going to be down because I don't want them driving it until I've replaced both those parts. Now, I went to Amazon.com and got a Moog drag link and a Moog tie rod end to go on that. I could probably just get by with the tie rod end because that's the piece that's moving. So the tie rod end that connects into the Pitman arm, I could probably just replace that. But I figure, these are my daughters. So let me just get the drag link because I'll replace that one at the steering knuckle at the same time as replacing the one at the Pitman arm.
Well, guys, look forward to Tony's review on, whatever he ends up buying for the upgrade for that. Of course, I look forward to hearing the comparisons between a TJ and an XJ's drag links, or track bars, rather. And, of course, we're going to have some interviews for you guys coming up in future episodes. Stick around for that. I've got some stuff that I've gotten from some folks at some recent shows that I've DJ'd, as well as an interview with a gentleman from Warrior Products. Look forward to those in the very near future.
Yeah, we got to get those on the show notes during the week, so Sunday doesn't roll around and go, hey, remember that interview?
Yeah, exactly.
So, guys, it's looking kind of good. I may be for sure, almost positively, going to SEMA this year, first time ever. So hopefully we'll have some information on that. It probably will affect our show schedule, but I'll know more as that time gets closer and actually buying the ticket and making hotel reservations. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, it's going to be a very neat experience. Can't wait to hear all about it.
Yeah, hopefully I can work in some interviews if I don't get too nervous about asking the famous people that I see.
It's going to be an overwhelming experience, I think, nonetheless.
All right, guys, till next week. Thanks for joining us this week, and remember to check out xjtalk.com. And I need to grab, I'm assuming you got time to do the promo.
Yeah.
I need to grab the 30-second one. Oh, and you know what we didn't do? Did you watch the promo from last week?
Did you? No, I didn't remember you sending me a link.
Yeah, I sent you a link in Google Plus chat. Like Monday, I think. But anyway, the thing we forgot to do was it was supposed to be 30 seconds, and we were at my suggestion, we started 5 seconds. We let it run for 5 seconds so I could get everything up and going, and
you
then
didn't
set it.
That 5 seconds, did you?
No, I did. But,
okay.
But we cut it off at 30 seconds, which was really 25 seconds because I trimmed the 5 off the front. So we were rushing, and we had another 5 seconds. I mean, we could have had 5 conversations in that time.
Okay.
So I just thought I'd throw that out there for tonight because it give us a little more time. I thought the promo went really well. If you got time, pull it up and look at it.
Yeah. So we did that on Thursday, and I don't remember, when did you?
I put it up Thursday evening. So actually, I told you about it Friday.
Okay.
That's right.
Let's see.
So it's on XJ Talk. So it's YouTube/user/XJ Talk.
Yeah, I was just there a little bit ago.
I'm going to find that file, the sound file that I need.
Let's see. This one. Oh, there's the. Okay.
Hey, this is Tony.
And this is Josh.
And we're here from the Tony and Josh Show. Going to tell you about episode 21.
Gotta talk about some gun control, some guns, and maybe even a little bit of Batman.
Ooh, a Batman. I like that. And hey, look, don't forget to go to tonyandjosh.com to get all the information about how to get our material, how to watch the show, how to watch us on YouTube, and even our live events every Thursday.
Don't miss this one, guys.
Did you see the wink on that one, Josh?
Yeah, I did. Pretty good.
That involuntary wink.
That's not so bad.
I thought it went together very well, and that was edited. That was the audio from the digital recorder.
The audio sounded okay. It seemed like I still don't like that delay. I know there's nothing we can do about it. It sounds so much better when we're doing it in my headphones.
I thought you were going to say in your head. It sounded so much better in my head.
No.
God, I don't know why they make those things so loud. I'll probably have to put that in post anyway, so I don't guess it matters.
The song?
Yeah, because I may have to. I was going to look at it today, and I didn't have a chance. But there was some AC hum that was getting into the recording, and the folks listening to the show right now or watching the show right now may be hearing that hum. I need to find out where it's coming from and fix it. If it's in there, I'm not going to put it in the promo. I'll just pull the audio off of the digital recorder and do the same thing for this promo, and go ahead and mix in the. I'll mix in the music as well. So let's see. I need to get over to this. All right. So
let's see. We're going to talk about. Well, we got some voicemails to come in that came in, and to keep those coming in.
Yep.
Talk about obviously we bashed the 2014 Cherokee some more. So that'll be good, and of course a great Jeep tips about some death wobble.
Yep. So something along the lines of we talk about episode 95. We talked about in This Week in Jeep, we talked about more of the 2014 Jeep Cherokee. We talked about death tips. And Jeep tips, we talk about death wobble. You might want to say something, how I was punished for going off-road too much. Something along those lines.
Oh, yeah.
That would be funny. Or I can say we talk about how Josh was. That might keep you a little bit out of trouble if I do it. Josh talks about how he was punished for going off road too much. I think on the voicemails I'll go, and we got more voicemails. Nikki G.
Well, we did have the one from Scott.
Yep.
So that was cool.
I'll say something like Scott and Nikki G, or you can. Scott and Nikki G call in this week with voicemails.
Here, I get down at the bottom of the show notes. I've got something going on here, just as far as talking points.
Yeah, I'm reading it.
Okay, so we could just do it in that order. You taking the first one.
Okay.
So Josh's punishment for off-roading too much. I'll say, voicemails from Nikki G and a new caller. And then you can talk about briefly about the Jeep Tips Death Wobble, and I'll mention the bashing of the 2014 Cherokee in This Week in Jeep.
I think I'm going to go with Death Tips Jeep Wobble.
Death Tips Jeep Wobble. Okay. See if they're paying attention.
I probably wouldn't be able to say it. I had to think about it just to say it then.
You're going to think about it and screw it up.
Take 47. Now I'll be able to do it. Death Tips Jeep Wobble. All right, well, let's give this a shot if you're ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
So were you going to do your timer?
Oh, yeah, good call. Thanks. Give me just 2 seconds here. All right.